Hey everyone, welcome to DECKSIDE. We're here with an OG in the space, as well as ApeCoin special council member. We have NFT Gerry. What's up, Gerry? How are you today?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're great, man. Welcome. DeckSide has been filled with great guests so far, and we're continuing that role today. Stoked to have you, man. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, man, we're excited to just chop it up with you. You've been doing so much in this space from the first time I can remember, creating banners for the Bored Ape Yacht Club as a community member. That was one of the first things I really saw you kind of pop up into the space was you were just always offering value to members of the club. Whether it was conversations, like I would go into your Discord, the Surreal Apes Discord, which is now Surreal Guild, but the Surreal Network. And those would be some of the most fruitful conversations about things that were happening in the Bored Ape Yacht Club, what's happening in Web3. In the meantime, you're screen sharing and sharing a bunch of banners, making banners for people in the space. So it's just so amazing to kind of witness this journey from over the last 2 years, and would love to have you talk a little bit about how you got to where you are. Like, what was your journey like leading up to getting into Web3?
That's a yeah, man. That's a fun topic. It's I think a lot of us probably landed here on accident. I think all of us landed here on accident. Ours started off, and it was like we were trying to diversify our portfolio. We were stacking a lot of silver, and then one day we decided, digital assets make a lot more sense. Probably around the time people didn't want to touch stuff and hand it to each other, and we were like, you know what? Money is going to end up being digital. It's already digital. Let's start moving some of our assets into the digital medium. And then we
and who's we, by the way?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jen, my partner, my best friend, my wife. She's been here since the very beginning. We do everything together. This is actually a giant table that's my desk, and she usually sits right here to my left all day long.
Amazing.
We've got very similar setups here, so yeah, she's my partner and everything. So
shout
I can
out
talk about her all
Jen.
day long.
Yes, sir. But yeah, sorry, I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. So yeah, Jen and I, and then it didn't take long before we became Ethereans, mostly because of her. I think we dove in and originally bought like ETH and Bitcoin and Doge and Bitcoin Cash probably, and didn't know what we were doing at all. And then we became Ethereans, and then we discovered like Chico Crypto, and we started watching a lot of Chico Crypto, maybe some old school BitBoy back in the day, and some Crypto Zombie, and just started Ivan on Tech, and it was just like a ritual. We were just trying to learn as much as we could, and then that led to us deciding like proof of stake was the future. So we were just going to stack as much ETH as possible. But in the interim, we also stacked a couple other altcoins. One of them was Kusama, which is key to the story that Chico put us onto. And then like something happened where DeFi started to settle down. We had stacked enough ETH to fire up some validators when that went live, which was in December of 2020. Yeah, December 2020.
And which is a lot of ETH, right? Because that's 32 ETH a validator.
Yeah, each validator was 32, but we were stacking all year, and we were stacking at like $80 to $150 per ETH. So we were stacking pretty low, and it was like weekly, like all of our money. And also in 2020, like our bills were just minimal. We basically just didn't pay bills for almost a year, and we just took all that money and we just put it all into ETH. And then we took all of that ETH and dumped it into validators, and then didn't have any ETH. And that was a huge like risk kind of thing, and there's no way to get it out. Like no way.
Yeah,
it was gone.
It's locked.
Yeah. And then so DeFi slowed down, and 2021 came around, and everybody was bored, and nobody really knew what to do. And Chico was kind of going in a different direction. Nobody was talking about NFTs that we were listening to. And then the algo eventually sent us Schiller. Steven Schiller.
Mm.
He was talking about Bogu. So we joined a Discord, and the Discord vibes were dope. It felt a lot like the old MIRC days from like the late 90s.
Oh, I
Just
love
got
that, man.
like-minded people, man. It was dope. It was like, I mean, that's all Discord is. It's like MIRC on steroids.
Yeah.
And then yeah, there were a few people in there that were apes, and we just started like really vibing with people and kind of doing some art. Jenny is an artist, so we started doing some like actual physical art in the garage, and just started kind of like getting involved with the community. And then apes were too expensive. Like we didn't have enough ETH. They were like 6 or 7. And I wanted one because there was like, man, I could just tell it was like, I just want one. They were what everybody was talking about were apes. I was like, man, I want one so bad. And I just kept whining about it constantly. Like, oh man, I want one. Like, oh, I can't afford one. All this, and then finally, Jen just told me one day. She was like, "You're getting an ape this weekend. You just need to get one." So we sold some Kusama, and I put in a bunch of WETH offers per Nylock. Nylock gave me the insight to just go in, and if I wanted to get one under the floor, just go vibe with a bunch of them and put in as many WETH offers as I could. So I spent one afternoon and I put like 50 WETH offers in, and the next day somebody bit, and I picked up Ape 2069, and
Yeah, I remember that.
That's my original ape that everybody knows. That's one of those shoes right there. And
Also on the chess set, there's a few really good examples of that.
I rugged a few. I like to joke that I've rugged more projects than anybody, because I felt like when I sold that ape, he was currently in like 6 projects.
That's a tough thing about, developing with the IP. I remember having a mutant that I was, it was my first mutant that I purchased. And I was like, you know what, might as well put it to work, and had a beer that was kind of being produced. But then the market took a turn for the worse. And I actually could have really used that liquid at that time. And it was tough because I was like, oh man, I put myself into this hole where, or to this corner where it's hard for me to liquidate and sell this mutant, because I already made a prior commitment to get this printed on cans, etc., have like a project that we're about to release with it. And so I ended up not doing it. And that was a huge lesson for me, in terms of, if you are going to be building with IP, you have to be ready to keep this thing, and also be ready for like the limitations you might come across if the market was to turn and you do need to liquidate this.
Yeah. That's an important point too. And like when you think of my ape particularly, like, my story has been I minted mine. I never thought to sell it because I always figured I'd want to build on it. So for me, I don't look at it as having any sellable value, because if I do, then I start to feel like, oh, I could use that money, and I see it in a different way. But if I tell myself that has no value on OpenSea, it helps me kind of focus on like, well, I have to build with the IP. I burnt the boat, so now I got to take the island, kind of thing, And I think a lot of us are committed to that grind, but it is a fear because, what if one day I need medical bills because I have to do an emergency, whatever, and that's your only asset. It becomes that I don't know what to do kind of moment, So hopefully none of us have to run into that situation, but it is a very real thought.
Well, it happened to me. I woke up to, Gerry, did you get hacked?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I saw it on the timeline too. I was like, oh, shoot.
Yeah, I woke up to it and my heart sank. And we all know the feeling of like, you messed up and you clicked on a link, and all of a sudden you realize like, oh my God, what did I just do? Why did I do that? And it doesn't do anything. Luckily, you got lucky, but it just goes through your head, and you get that, that feeling I'm talking about in your soul. It hits you.
Yep.
You're like, I just messed up. And it's like hopefully nothing happened, and it just wakes you up a little bit, but man, I've had those moments, and it was one of those where I woke up to like 15 messages saying, did you get hacked? And I didn't. Luckily, I had the ETH was in my wallet, but Yeah, I didn't sell them on purpose. I was an idiot. I was the floor did the opposite thing that we were talking about. It caught me. I was an idiot and I was farming. I was farming looks rare, and I had it listed like 20% over the floor, and I didn't expect anybody to pay for that floor ape with that aqua background for 20% over the floor, but the floor moved up enough to where somebody was willing to pay like 10% over the floor.
Yeah,
and I guess I hadn't considered that.
I mean, we're still actively learning in this space, you know, it's so new. So like these sort of lessons are insanely valuable to others. And, you know, sharing that is something to think about. Like if you're farming a token, where is your tolerance of risk, you know, and you kind of got to figure that out before.
Yeah, don't farm. That's good advice would be don't farm with your and one just for I didn't really like the ape. I didn't like that it smoked. I wasn't a fan of it. I was trying to flip that ape into a better ape for a really long time and it never happened. And so, but it was really sticky because there were I felt responsible for all these other, like, you know, the chess set and the playing cards. And I've got people sending me, you know, a canvas. Like the week before, one of my good friends, Chef Tolly, who was overseas, sent me this like 2 giant oil paintings that he had of like my ape and the surreal version of my ape. And I'm like, man, I really want to sell this thing. And people are just like really hard. I've got a wooden old school Gerry up here on the wall. I still have, like, you know, mugs and just there's tons of stuff, and it made it really hard. But man, when it sold, it was like a relief. It was a relief.
But it's kind of cool. You have all these products that kind of like, you know, they're still with you. They tell a story. You look back at it, it's a memento almost, you know, and then it's forever on provenance with that particular NFT as well. So I think it's pretty cool, you know, and you're a really great example. Ooh, that's really nice. Showcasing what are you holding up right there, just for anyone that's listening in?
Yeah, this is a 3D print that was made for me by Ism Toys, 2 great guys that also just joined and decided they were going to start
I got one of those.
You know, lending value. Yeah, baby, that's what's up.
I have one back there.
You know how special it is that we're all so happy to have our own little bust of ourselves.
Oh, DJ.
Oh, wow.
That's so cool.
That is pretty neat.
They kill it. They
did. Yeah, the chess set was amazing. They just did a really good job. They're good people too. They're really good people.
Yeah, I still need to claim my chess set. I've been in contact with them, or trying to get in contact. So I gotta follow up. But anyway, aside.
Yeah, they fell on hard times. Bear market hit a lot of people, and I think they got hit pretty hard. They had they had some stuff that had happened with Bugatti. I think they make it just, they were a victim to I think a hack.
Oh man, that's not good to hear. But you know what? As it relates to building with your IP, you know, you ended up selling your older ape. You know, you found out you got, you know, a WETH offer was accepted. You woke up, you had the ETH in the wallet, so you weren't hacked. What was it like finding your new ape?
So that was actually a lot of fun. It was a little stressful, but it was a lot of fun because I had so many people that were like helping. And just even the moment that we knew, by the way, I went in, I remember it was early morning, of course, and Jen was in the bathroom, like putting on her makeup or doing her hair or something. And I walked in and she looked at me, and her thought, the look on my face, the response that I got from the look on my face was, did Rocket get hit by a car? That's our cat.
Oh my gosh.
She thought our cat got hit by a car because of the look on my face. And I was like, but it always sticks to me. Like, my face said our animal is dead. When in reality, it was that our JPEG sold.
Oh my God.
So, but and then of course I had to tell Cap, and I just told, you know, there were like a bunch of my friends, and I was just like, I don't know exactly what to do except for just, I guess, go shopping. And that's what it was. It was shopping for like a week. and I was looking for like a zombie. I was committed to getting like a zombie for like sleeve on my arm, like a tattoo.
Oh wow.
And I was like, I really wanted a zombie. So Machi was even helping me find a zombie. He offered me like 2 double zombies, and I mean, just everybody. I was just trying to find one that I like really clicked with. I was talking to Kaz, freaking legend, and you know, we always tell people like when they're asking like what to look for, and it's just find one you vibe with, find one that you like. You know, you're gonna know it when you see it. And that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for like that moment, and I was really close to getting a couple, and they're still out there. Like they still float around the floor area. And I'm really glad I didn't. This one came up and it was for sale for like 20 minutes. And I called Cap on the phone. Jen's sitting next to me. Jen and I saw it and we're like, holy shit, like this guy. And he was just over the floor. And we called Cap and I wanted his advice. I always ask him for his advice. And he pulled over his car and he's on the side of the road with me when we finally, just after just a few minutes, decided to pull the trigger. And I haven't looked back, man. This ape he's my ape. Like this guy, I just love him. I mean, it's arguably I probably would have been better off with the old ape because he would have been easier to sell when I needed to. And now I'm like, nah, you're not going to pry this guy away from me. He's too pretty. And so I just love him. I'm going to love building with the IP, and he just he's my Florida ape. So yeah, the experience was great. The community was great. There was of the hundreds of people that reached out, one person like said something about me like dumping my ape, and I'm like, bro, it was an accident. I don't know what to tell you. And then he felt bad. But that was my point, is nobody else. There was like zero cell shaming, and there never should be. But it was really amazing. The community was both there for me as like congratulations, and also there like welcome back.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing community. I love this.
That's an insanely important part that you just said at the end is celebrating and not self shaming, right? Like I know for some of my friends, they got caught up in the loan fiasco that happened, and they feel either embarrassed or they feel whatever they feel, but it's okay. Like there's always opportunity to come back. They still have mutants, so they're still in the club, but really no one except yourself think about that, so whenever I've seen a friend come up again, it's always nice to celebrate them, but there should never be that intensity or that feeling. So to just spread that message is quite important, I think.
It really is. I totally agree. And everybody should definitely just take that to heart, that we as a club congratulate people when they sell, and we're happy for them no matter what. Even the OGest of the OGs, when you see somebody sell, Ashura. We all love Ashura. I adore Ashura. He was the first person I ever met in real life, in BAYC. Likewise, Jen and I were the first apes that he ever met in real life. I love that guy. And when he sold his zombie, my first instinct was just to reach out to him and say congratulations. Like that's it. I think, and people really are, like what you just said, a lot harder on themselves. You put this pressure on yourself, like everybody's going to look at me differently. And I see people that even if you sell your last ape, who are saying goodbye on Twitter, and I just try and reach out to them in their DMs and remind them, like, this isn't goodbye, bro. Like you're still here. Like you're if you show up, you're still here in Web3.
Yeah, you're part of the journey.
You're part of the journey. This is your journey still, and we're happy for you. And I'm happy for everybody that left at the top. Every one of them, anybody whose life it's changed, or for whatever reason, the only people that really like it just hurts me are the people who've leveraged themselves out of this.
Yeah, it's really tough because if you don't plan on selling your NFT or your ape, then there has to be other ways you extract value out of owning one. What are some of the things you've found to be the most successful ways to extract value out of the ape without having to sell it?
Well, I think Yuga gave us all those opportunities right off the bat. I mean, if you think about it, I think about this a lot. Maybe this isn't the most popular opinion, but every time that they gave us any opportunity to mint something simply because you already had something else was a way to extract value. And I think it was almost like a gift of saying like, hey, we want you to be a part of this club forever, but we also want you to succeed. So here's your opportunity. You can choose. Like they're basically like fractionalizing your ape for you, so that you have the choice to either hang on to the new item or sell off a piece and still maintain like, you know, the most important part to you, which was being a part of the club. So I've done that. I've taken it a couple steps too far. I probably should have just minted an other deed, and instead I brought friends and family over to KYC so I could mint way too many. And but that would be a good example. The other one, you know, I mean,
did you guys at least get a coda in any of those mints?
No, 0 for 13.
No.
Oh.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm on the 0 club too, so you know.
Me too. I bought my codas at the tippy top, so you know these are my guys forever until we get back to the tippy top.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way you put it though, like how Yuga, I mean, I think it kind of goes to show like, you know, Yuga has, some people would attribute, you know, success as, you know, Yuga has had success in this space. And those are some of the things that the things you're pointing out are really great observations in terms of what they have done to kind of allow the holders to maintain their ape and then choose what to do with that next asset, you know, whether it be, you know, hey, here's the serum. Do you want to sell the serum? Do you want to keep the serum because it is a deflationary collection? Or do you want to, you know, drink it and change it into one of the mutants, which has its own perks and, you know, becomes another membership. And then those mutants also have ApeCoin claim or other deed, and you know, and they're continuing to find new utility and ways to be able to do that, even with heavy metal, you know, offering newer assets, sewer passes, etc. And then now people have the choice, like, hey, because I own this asset, I was able to claim this, and I can now play this game. Or I can decide to sell it and extract value that way.
I never thought of it as fractionalizing the value, but that is actually a very interesting way to perceive it, right? Like we get to keep our main asset and there's all these little perks that come aside from it. And I never thought to sell mine because I'm the fool who wants the complete set, you know, and thought like, oh, I'll buy the M2 and drink it and the M1. But for a lot of people, they were offsetting and going, hey, I got a doggo. That's 2 ether. That's fantastic. But I can keep my main asset and still be in the club like I was before. And that is kind of the value prop that we got along the way. Now, one of the things I wonder is a lot of those props are done for a matter of speaking, right? Like what gives the Bored Apes and the mutants the continuous value as we're in the club together, right? Like what garners a 20 plus ETH floor and a 5-6 ether floor for the mutants?
I think that question, like, it's multifaceted, but I think one of those, one answer, like, I love what they're doing with Made by Apes, Made of Apes. Made by Apes. Sorry,
yeah,
I love it. It's I think it gives people an opportunity to get on the flywheel, because I think that we kind of set this off at the very beginning where, you know, you had this opportunity, but nobody had really put out like any framework. So you had people like yourselves that were leaning into their IP, but there were also a lot of people who were like, I don't know what to do. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I made the banners because I wasn't creative enough to come up with a way to actually generate any kind of like, you know, revenue or value like that. So I was I was just trying to contribute in any way, but there were so many people who were like, you know, putting out there like NFD, Leor, Mutant Cartel, like they led this idea to me with mutants, where they were just like, they created this structure to utilizing your IP, jumping in and creating like a little mini flywheel to give an example on how other communities could start, you know, bringing value to their ecosystem, the little mini ecosystems, or just their one ape. And I think now with Made by Apes, you have something similar where they're highlighting and showing everybody like, look, this is the effect that this is going to have. Jump on. We're showing you how. Here are the examples. Here's a list. Here are all the people who are like doing something, and they're showing people, like they're giving like all these roadmaps and getting people's like imaginations flowing. And I think that's really important. I think that that's definitely going to go a long way as for the people who want to generate value or extract value, especially if they bought at like 100 ETH and they're still in this. I mean, I think of people like stacking apes when they were like way up there, and he's still like he's in it. He's in it all that. I mean, he's still here. He still shows up. He's still very positive, and he wants to do something with his IP, and I know he's going to, and he is. So it's just people like that being able to show, like, showcase them and give a roadmap and some guidance to others. I think that that's really important that they're doing that. I love what it's hard to call him Joshua. I like what Richie Rich has done. It's amazing. Or Joshua, whatever we're calling him now. But he's just putting on a masterclass on how to bring people together to kind of like influence a behavior, like a micro behavior with people. I love that.
Let's cycle back though, because you're right. Made by Apes is a great idea in premise, and I love the fact that through that I've seen a lot of new projects I wasn't aware of being celebrated on Twitter. And I think that's one of my favorite parts of the Made by Apes is all of a sudden the awareness that we're all finding of different builders that have been right alongside us, but they're not great marketers, and that's something I hear often in this space is like, yo, we're building the greatest project, but we forgot to tell anyone about it. We're just not good at marketing. And so having someone offer a platform where they can kind of be celebrated and then associated with Yuga, I do find tremendous value in that.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. And I think that the marketing, so this is actually we haven't actually told anybody about guerrilla marketing yet, but I guess just imagine if you had like a banner, like right here at the beginning of your show, if you said that this was quote unquote sponsored by, or at the end, or if you had a plug in between, or if somebody in the ecosystem, one of those Made by Apes projects, or better yet, on my topic, ApeCoin, an ApeCoin AIP that passed. Let's call it the rugs. They didn't sell out. And I think a lot of it's a lack of marketing. And I think that if there was like a plug for them, or for the next project, or for the next game, or for the AIPs that pass, and there was a mechanism, and they started actually incorporating a marketing budget into their project, or a Made by Apes project that put up an AIP to request a marketing budget, and then use that marketing budget to employ like a marketing agency. And there are several out there. Jen and I are going to fire one up, and we're working on the paperwork for one for guerrilla marketing. And
nice.
Essentially, that's just going to be what it is. It's going to be that extra step afterwards that everybody's missing. Your AIP passed, fantastic. That doesn't mean that everybody knew it. You have to tell everybody, and it needs to be multifaceted. You're going to have people on Twitter seeing it. You're going to have people on the shows seeing it. You're going to have people on Spaces talking about it. You're just going to have a few different people that are on board with these contracts, just saying, hey, are you good with receiving this? Are you two okay with receiving this much ApeCoin for, which will only be paid in ApeCoin, for this amount of, a plug. And then once you get enough people doing that, and you have people building in a marketing budget, I think that we start to see a lot more success, which when you see success, that really is the only thing that's really going to speed up that flywheel and make it seem more attractive to other people. If it's a slow process and everybody who puts up any idea, you're like, oh, great, they Made by Apes, they're selling this product. That's really great. But you don't rush to buy it because there doesn't seem to be any urgency. You're not seeing a lot of other people buying it. It's not on all the collector shelves. Maybe it's not limited enough. But really, most of it comes down to the marketing. And if you do see that it's marketed well, and then all of a sudden you start to feel that FOMO, we get that flywheel effect where everybody kind of like, just wants to buy it.
That's awesome, man. The guerrilla marketing is such a clever name, and you're absolutely right. Like a lot of the people who do pass AIP, they have amazing products, but this is what I used to tell clients all the time when I was advising is if you paint something and you go out onto your front yard and you announce it, your reach is only as far as you can yell. But you actually have to go into the social media world. You have to find these little nuances that you may not be familiar with. That's where someone like yourself may step in with some knowledge and execute on someone else's behalf, because a creator should be focused on creating. They shouldn't have to go sell as well, right? And so oftentimes that's delegation, that's finding assistance. And I think a lot more people are going to start to put two and two together when it comes to that.
No, I like what you said, by the way, because I totally agree. Yeah, 100%. That it's all about marketing. We've got to get the marketing under control for everybody. Like we should be cross marketing everywhere. People should just be bombarded with all of these products and Made by Ape, and even the people before Made by Ape, all these projects. We should be bombarded everywhere. I want to see that shit like in my promoteds in Twitter, like everywhere. I want to see it. I want to be advertised to often. I mean, think about it. Like I was talking earlier, but we can get onto this topic. Actually, I'll circle back to it because it's about that value generation. Think about every other single platform that we've been volunteering all of our attention to for years. And what do they do with all that attention? They sell it to somebody else and they enrich themselves. They make their company huge, and then they sell more of you back to other people. And if we just figure out that we're the product, let's remain the product. Let's be happy. I will be happy to be your product because you're my family, you're my community. Of course I want to be your product. And if we get that flywheel moving, then more people want to be the product. And then they realize like just participating in this ecosystem is valuable, actually valuable, like extractable value even. And that's the part that people have a hard time wrapping their brains around is if you help others, you're helping yourself too.
What do you think is kind of the next focus for getting, what do you think is the next focus for encouraging people to participate in this ecosystem? Because obviously you have like on the macro level, things are looking pretty doom and gloom for a lot of people. It's really hard to be enthusiastic about jumping into something brand new as volatile as, the crypto space or NFT space, ApeCoin. What's the focus to like set us up to have more participation in all of this?
Sure. Yeah, I love that. Now you hit that from like a macro to a micro level. So if we're talking about making people feel more comfortable getting into crypto, I think that it's education and simplicity of transactions and making people feel more comfortable with the idea of transmitting a transaction. And I know that like PayPal and all these other companies are trying to jump on the bandwagon of crypto, but I think that it needs to come from the inside out, not the outside in. We don't need to let Web3 dictate how we make this a safer and more inclusive environment. I think that we have the ability to do that, and we have the creative people, the experience needed, and if anything, they should just be asking for our help. But I think that's the key to getting like the masses is going to be the simplicity of transactions and a feeling of like security. Obviously, there's some regulation concerns, but that's always that's something I can't really help with unless ApeCoin decides that we want to start lobbying.
And do you think that's a technical feat in terms of simplifying the transactions?
Yeah, that's a lot of an Ethereum issue, for instance. I mean, you can see like obviously Coinbase has done a really great job of kind of bridging. You can buy very easily on their central exchange, and then they've made it to where it's kind of easy to move it over into their Coinbase wallet. There's a gap of education there and information where I think that's where we can come in and we can really solve this. I've got some ideas based on like old school gaming and like storytelling tutorials, the way we used to learn how to play a game, the way we still learn how to play most games, but in a simplified way where we, I've got some ideas I'm working with some educational projects with, but the general premise of that is just start somebody with just like before you move on to this step, you have to learn these 3 steps and make it to where it's engaging in storytelling and kind of like has like a Monkey Island kind of feel to it, where it's not terribly complicated or intimidating, but it's more fun and simple, but it guides you to the next steps. So you gradually learn and become more comfortable with, within a few months, all of a sudden you're minting from a contract. And seriously, like, we can guide people from step 1, you have no idea what a wallet is, and have a good time learning and going all the way through the process of minting from a wallet. We do this with children, with teaching them how to code with things like Code Combat. We can do the exact same thing with teaching people just how to utilize crypto, or we can just go all the way to Web3. If somebody's like, I want to learn how to play this game, but I also, want to know how it works in the back end and all that stuff. So they're going to start from the beginning and get all the way through it. I think that type of gamification, where it's truly like a storytelling game, I think that's one of the ways that we make people feel better about getting into crypto and experiencing mass adoption. Again, Coinbase had some really great ways that they did that before with the videos. Remember when like a new crypto would come out and they'd have like a little five short video series, and you'd watch them and earn a little bit of that native token or something like that.
Yeah,
but
take a quick quiz.
Yeah, so like stuff like that, I think will help a lot. But I think we need that from like the inside out. Like Web3 needs to really get on board with that. I think the next one that you said was like, how do we get people into NFTs? In which case, I think a lot of that has to do with NFTs evolving a little bit. I think that a lot of us got into NFTs when maybe not a lot of us, but there's still a little bit of a negative connotation with NFTs that are a result of this that period of time when people were just minting the next animal PFP that just nobody's done a beaver. Fuck, let's do a beaver, and all of a sudden, and then it was like, oh wait, let's do flip beavers because those beavers were actually successful. So let's put them all on yellow backgrounds. I mean, we got to this point where it was very clear that it was like the ICOs of old, and most of it was just like, they were shit coins, but they were in the form of the next pump and dump. And honestly, like that, we have to kind of evolve past. And I think Yuga's done a great job, and there are some other projects that have done a really great job of creating more of a culture around an NFT project that people could kind of wrap their brains around, wrap their hearts around, and start to really vibe with and realize like there's something more here than just something that I can use on Twitter for my PFP, which isn't sustainable. And it's just, that's absurd for people to simply pay a certain, like a ton of money for something, just hoping that a lot of people are going to want to use this on Twitter, which is crazy.
I mean, the correlation you just mentioned with the ICOs of old and kind of like the NFT bull market, we often used to say that in spaces was there's a lot of similarities in that people were just asking for money for whatever purpose, right? But there's inherent projects like the Bored Ape who create culture, and the network effect has genuine tangible value, right? And so to extract the value in a physical way or through connections, they're going to kind of they're going to stand the test of time in terms of value. And I think that's why the Bored Apes are actually still a valuable NFT, right? And the phrasing could be different. They can call it digital collectible in a year. It doesn't matter. But that network effect truly does have inherent value, which is going to be interesting to see as it evolves and new people come, right?
Yeah.
So
that network effect is really like one of the coolest things about what's happening with the Bored Ape Yacht Club is almost like from a brand standpoint, it's like a decentralized company almost from an IP standpoint, whereas like we have different companies, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, large businesses, like all over the world that are using this IP. And then being able to tap into the network effect that is at work there is really, really interesting, and something I have never been a part of or really seen evolve in the way that Bored Ape Yacht Club has. And now we almost have an extension of that ecosystem with ApeCoin, you know, where now there's an ApeCoin community that's all over the world that's creating really amazing ideas, businesses, projects all around the world. And they all are a part of the ApeCoin ecosystem. So kind of
it's
the
almost
same.
like that was that micro. So you earlier you brought up the three. You said, you know, crypto, then NFTs, and then ApeCoin. And ApeCoin definitely is like a little bit of an outlier in that scenario, because you do have like the NFTs here, you got crypto up here, and then you've got the NFTs, and then off to the side you've got like this ApeCoin thing that happened. And all of a sudden now, like you said over here with the BAYC and all of the network effect and all of these smaller companies and this decentralized entity of sorts, you've got the same thing with ApeCoin, where it hasn't really taken off in that way yet. But this is, I don't want to say too much. There's something that's being worked on that maybe I'll start over. All right. So the ApeCoin, there will be many different projects that pop up around ApeCoin, and it will have its own flywheel. And that's really cool, because one wheel is just one wheel. But if we start getting multiple flywheels together, now we're working our way towards a car. And I think that having multiple flywheels, including an ApeCoin flywheel that's acting as it's a grants DAO. It's also a culture DAO, but it's also an opportunity DAO. And that opportunity DAO, I think, is the part that people aren't tapping into the right way. And I think it's very specific. I think the reason is very specific. And I think it's mostly because this is hard for me to articulate without sounding, it's hard. I have to watch everything that I say. So I'll just say it like this. I think that communities should be able to think in a selfish way, like an entrepreneurial spirit, where they're like, we want to make money for our community. How do we get people to accept that within the ApeCoin community? And how do we get them to be okay with that? And currently, I don't think there's an answer, because we aren't set up as a foundation to capture revenue, and people haven't really started to, well, let's just say that there's a mechanism that's being put in place that should alleviate that and get people thinking in a more entrepreneurial spirit, by being able to finally give back to the DAO. And I think that will get the DAO thinking in a much more VC way, I guess you could say, like where people start voting and thinking, okay, they want this much. What's the return? How is this going to how's this going to move the ball forward? And I think if they start seeing that, oh shit, that community is committed to returning 6.9% of their revenue based off of this grant to this other treasury, for instance, then I think people would be a lot more inclined to say yes if they thought they believed in that it's going to work, but they were also thinking in an investment entrepreneurial way as well. And then once that starts to happen, and you get one or two communities that put up proposals that get grants, or maybe they don't. Maybe they don't put up a proposal. Maybe they just start contributing to the ecosystem, and they're taking ApeCoin only, and a percentage of their revenue is going into some multi-sig that's controlled by the greater community. I think that starts that flywheel effect where people want to jump on, seeing like, holy shit, like, why would I go after like funding in any other way when I can do it like this? And then you take it a step further, and we start talking about making ApeCoin the obvious choice for things like gaming, and the only way that we can do that is if we start the conversation around layer twos and roll-ups.
ZK. You know, I think that was kind of where my follow-up question was, like, how do you make ApeCoin the obvious choice for gaming? You know, there's so many different hurdles. along that when ApeCoin's based off of Ethereum, just
Yeah.
because, like, for instance, you go to Bored and Hungry, they have ApeCoin as an accepted form of payment. However, if the Ethereum gas is, if the GUI is high enough, then sometimes the transaction costs more than the burger.
Well, even if it's 15%, like why would you pay 15%? Why would you spend your, yeah. As for utilizing ApeCoin in real world to buy tangible items that are obviously going to need to be paid for with fiat for the most part, that's not really, I don't think that one moves the ball as much. It's noble to sit there and let's say fire up a t-shirt company and say we're only going to take ApeCoin, but we all kind of know, like, you know, those t-shirts aren't, like, the manufacturer probably isn't taking ApeCoin. So that's
right.
I think about services, and I think about so for instance, and this will come out in the next week or so, God willing. It's already functional. You can actually go try it out now. It's not pretty, and we're waiting to actually officially launch it for a little bit until, well, there's one extra little piece that needs to be put in the puzzle before we hit the launch button, but just banners.xyz. And 100% of the, it's just a service. You'll just be able to go there and put in your mutant number and generate a banner. We'll add banners, we'll add Azuki, we'll add heavy metals and codas, and it's all going to happen pretty quickly. But and you know, we'll add some new banners. I'll get some actual good artists to create better banners than the one I put up there. And you'll only pay an ApeCoin, and 100% of that ApeCoin is going to go to like a community wallet. Okay, it's just a service. It's not costing me anything. So there's no real world like expense. And of course, nobody has to put in 100%. Most people, like, you know, let's say it was 10%. 10% of all of those banner fees, let's say it's 6.9 ApeCoin, and even 0.9 ApeCoin of every banner went into a community wallet for the community to decide what to use. That's just one small example of how you can, like, just give that flywheel a little nudge, just a little nudge in the right direction, and then you get a few more doing something similar, and then all of a sudden we have an economy of sorts, and that flywheel would become a lot more attractive to be on if you were able to get a grant, enrich your own community while benefiting the whole community, and while contributing back some to for the sustainability of the community as well. So I think that's a big part of it, and I think that's in our future.
I absolutely look forward to that, because that's something I know Sean and I would love to do for the Other Space FM community, is enrich our community. And we do that through the knowledge, right? But if there's a way that you can go through a grant process and actually have coins to you know, further the journey collectively and kind of make it beneficial for everybody, that sounds like a beautiful scenario. Now, before this conversation, it sounds kind of like a wild dream, but you're saying this is something that's in action. And kind of why the DAO is so important to the community is these are opportunities available. So I love hearing it's not restricted to any particular group or people. You just got to participate.
I think it kind of like goes down to where the DAO is at, right? In terms of the maturity of it. It's relatively a new DAO. And when it comes to governance, there's a lot of opportunity to do that. For instance, even the ApeCoin Foundation, they're not able to accept any sort of revenue as it stands. And so, Gerry, what you're talking about, being able to set up an entity to where it could ApeCoin could potentially generate revenue, would definitely add a new kind of way people would be able to contribute to the ecosystem, and how the DAO would be a beneficiary of some of these projects based on what their, you know, revenue mechanics are.
And that's just it. And I've tried to use the example before of like trying to say that like the foundation, the DAO treasury is like this big body of water in the desert, like this giant body of water with a dam, and it's just sitting there. And you're in the desert. Let's call it Southern Nevada. There's nothing there. And, you know, somebody comes up with a great idea and they're like, I need some of that water, like to make this idea work. And it's like, all right, cool. How much do you need? And then, you know, but you've got to agree, like, okay, we're also there, that water is finite. So we're going to set up like a reservoir over here, and a portion of the water that we use is going to go back into this other reservoir for other small communities later on to be able to utilize. And if all of the different communities are contributing to that reservoir, when this one dam, this one big giant body of water is sapped dry, hopefully at the end of that, you have all of these communities that are generating like Las Vegas into one reservoir, and they're all successful, and they're all still able to continually utilize that new mechanism. And at that point, you've got to wonder, like, is the dam necessary? What do you do with the dam at the point where the community has already successfully managed to turn all of that into an oasis? And it's a self-sustaining oasis, and the dam is no longer necessary because we figured out a way to sustainably maintain ourselves.
Now, this has been really informative, and I love learning from people like yourself, because Sean said at the beginning, you're an OG, right? And OG doesn't mean you've had the same ape forever. It just means you've continually showed up and put in value. And I appreciate how much value and time you've dedicated to the community. And now hearing that you've taken so much care about ApeCoin, that really kind of makes me feel like, okay, well, now I have to pay attention to ApeCoin myself, right? And the more you see people that you respect in the club become aware and actively part of other parts of the community, it makes me also have that desire to like, okay, shit, I got to pay attention. I got to see what they're doing. Because that's how we got to the Bored Ape Club in the first place, was finding friends that we valued their opinion and going, oh, okay, everyone's got this monkey picture now. I better be aware of that, right? So I take a note when you're taking awareness of ApeCoin, and Trippy's taking awareness of ApeCoin, and all these people I respect are focusing their energy there. Now I feel it's time for me, and I want to say my, platform, to be more aware of it as well. So I just want to take a moment and appreciate all the effort that you've been putting in, because it's not lost. You put in a lot of work, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a long road. I'm hoping that I get some more time to continually work on it. It's been an honor, and it's a lot of work, but I think it's going to pay off. I think that I think we're laying a good foundation for others to build on. I think that's the most important thing. That's what founders are supposed to do. And I feel like that's what a few of us have decided to do, is to take some ownership and really try and like create a foundational layer for other people to build on and be successful.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think you, along with everyone else that has really contributed, both people that are actually getting paid to do it, but also the countless people that just show up actively contributing to the ecosystem. It's really inspiring to see, and I think at the same time, it's been such a learning experience just in general, not only in participation with a DAO, but also in Web3, in the club, in these gaming experiences, in the discords with sub communities. There's so much that I'm personally learning about how to move in this space, what's meaningful to myself, what's meaningful for others. What do you think is kind of like, what do people get out of being in this space, in terms of the value that they're getting by participating?
Yeah, so there's different types of value, and I mean, there's that tangible, extractable value, and then there's the network value that we've talked about. There's the part of being a club, the access, the ability to mint, or just to hang out with friends at a party. Which, I mean, if you weren't in, for anybody out there that didn't make Miami, wow. I mean, the events just get better and better each time. And I tell you what, this one was only rivaled, in my opinion, by the original Ape Fest, and arguably it was better.
Dang.
I remember
incredible.
seeing you for a blur of a moment.
Saw you a few times, yeah, man. We saw at the night before at Profits event, and then at the I mean, did you see my feet though? I was barefoot all night.
Oh man, I did not
Like
catch
a
that.
true Florida man.
Yeah.
I
So
was,
are
I was
you going
barefoot
to
the whole
Hong
night.
Kong?
That's the plan. I'm waiting for Jenny and I are waiting for our expedited passports to show up. So hopefully,
Good
that's
luck.
definitely that's obviously like that. A lot of people point to that one and Web3, like, you know, or Bored Apes, like that, the parties and the get-togethers and the network and all that. That's definitely one way to kind of like assess the amount of, you know, the value, I guess. But I think that if we're going to grow, I think people also have to realize that this isn't Ponzi-nomics either. Like, this is like, there's true value in communities. It's been like this forever, whether it was newspapers or IRC, like we were talking about earlier, or Facebook, MySpace, LimeWire, Instagram, every social media that you can think of, they're all based on the exact same thing. And it's us, our attention, our desire to be a part of the conversation or just to be together. And most times it's just like our digital congregations. Since, you know, since I was a kid and I was playing on BBSs, I loved it, just being able to talk to people that weren't right there in front of me and find like-minded people. I've always had a desire to want to, like, you know, be a part of a community, and yet all the communities that that were in my direct real-world proximity, for some reason I just didn't always fit in. But I could almost always find people to fit in with online, and eventually it turned into gaming, where, you know, we played games, and I worked at Dell for years, and I mean, I remember just the efforts that we took to try and get online to participate with other people. There was just this strong urge to congregate, and that was valuable. And these Web2 companies, they saw it. They saw it. They salivated. They saw it, and they were like, "Man, that's opportunity." And they grabbed it, and they started extracting that value. It was eternal. Like, it is a faucet that will never go away. They get to continually extract us, the value that we bring, the three of us right now, the value that we bring is being extracted right now by this platform. They're literally taking it out and selling it back. And every other platform is doing the same thing. All these Web2 companies, and they have these brilliant people at the top that are figuring out ways to manipulate you for better or worse, your habits, driving your habits, showing you what you want to see, advertising, like, so they can create these metrics that they can sell to other people and advertise to everybody, and basically, like, enrich their own companies, grow their own companies, develop and manifest power. Web3 comes along, and we are so used to being the product. We're so used to, like, being kind of like held down and told we're lucky that it's free, when really it's not free. We're paying them, essentially, with our information. We're paying them to use these services, and they're taking advantage of our desire to be together. And finally, Web3 gives us the ability to tap directly into the value that we're already bringing, and simply give us the control. And all we need is the right guidance at the top that's saying, okay, let's figure out the ways to guide our communities in a direction that helps to benefit them and lets them extract value to enrich their lives that they so deserve, simply because they're showing up, they're a part of these communities, they're trying to contribute. And every time they do, even if you're just liking somebody's tweet, or you're building somebody's banner, or you're creating Made by Apes, I mean, these different levels of contribution are all valuable, and we all should definitely benefit. And that's the part that Web2 left out, was us. And Web3 includes us. And that's the future to me. It's a future of freedom and it's all about us being able to actually not just buy in, but be bought into. Friend Tech is illustrating this really well too, by the way. But it's that's Web3. Like that to me is Web3. That's the dream, and I think that it's all about freedom.
I love that. Sean and I often talk about, we're in a permissionless world here in Web3 where you in the past had to really like ask for permission to accomplish things here, but we own our assets. We can build upon them. And the club has kind of given us that freedom of identity and purpose, right? So if we feel like starting a show like Other Space FM, hey, guess what? We did it. We're doing it. We've done it for over a year and there's no stopping us, right? And we're not beholden to anyone. We just provide something we love and find like-minded people along the way, right? And I think back to my AOL days, like I was in chat rooms looking for friends, and not to say I didn't have great friends like Sean, which I was blessed to have as a child, but you put in a class with 30 friends, they're just the closest people to your neighborhood, to where you live. They're not necessarily people you have things in common with. So that outsider perspective is a very real thing, right? All of a sudden, internet lands on your doorstep in a way of speaking. And now I'm finding people who care about the same things I do. They think the same way I do, and it's easy to make friendships like that. And it makes you realize that you're not such an outsider. You actually have just never been positioned in a place where you're going to succeed and thrive. So Web3 has done that for a lot of people. And you got to appreciate that through the internet, through this NFT tech, we find that like-minded friendship we truly desire.
Yeah, and it's valuable. I mean, think about you guys right now. Like, let's just say, for instance, hypothetically, just because you guys love doing this together, that you guys created a Web3 StreamYard.
Yeah.
And a portion of all of your and then you let people, other people use it for a fee, and then a portion of that goes back into the ecosystem, and then you figure out ways to reward people for not only using it but for watching it. I mean, they've already given us all of the roadmaps on how to do this and how to take advantage of us, and we just have to apply it to each other, and make everybody realize like this is the greater good. Imagine if we had been monetizing HTTP, the protocol. Every time somebody used HTTP for the last, forever, if it was you had to pay a little gas each time, and it was an ecosystem. Just think about how valuable HTTP would be by now.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about like the Web3 ethos and principles that are at play is that there is a sense of ownership, when it comes to your data. And one of the things I believe it enables is, instead of having to really aim for the masses in terms of the millions of people, you can actually create some sustainability with a community of 100, 1,000 true fans, or people who are there to support willingly and participate. And then there's ways to reward them as well, so that like we talked about flywheels, like that's where it's really interesting to see how people are innovating to be able to do that, because the infrastructure is really that technology that's enabling all of this. And Jason, to your point, like you're in the chat rooms, Gerry, you were mentioning MIRC, which is internet relay chat. Like a lot of those things like enabled people to connect from all over the world and be able to collaborate and come up with like ways we can, like you mentioned, town halls, discussing ideas, and then being able to form businesses even where your team is decentralized. So there's a lot of really cool things that are kind of like, we're in this moment of time where we get to shape this up. And everything we're talking about are big key enablers for the community to be able to tap into.
Yeah. And when people say we're early, like, man, like we're at the jumping off spot. Like this is, we're so new, and we used to say that and we're like, we're early, we're new. Yeah, we're early. We're very early. And you can tell, I remember what the internet looked like in 1996, 1997. And I know what it looked like 5 years later, and 5 years after that, and 5 years after that. I know right now Web3 is basically in stage 1. Like it's barely at stage 1. It's pretty small. And just imagine if you were the first of the AOL users, like you used it when it was a floppy disk that was sent to your house. You know, I think that's where we're at right now. We're still at that point where people really don't even know where to put the floppy disk yet. And I think we're very early.
Yeah, you got to love the innovation and the speed of it in this space. But you're absolutely right. Like, if you can reach out to founders of projects and they might like your tweet or respond, like, that tells you how early we are. Jeff Bezos isn't going to be on Twitter liking and responding to anyone, but Garga might, you know, and that kind of frames that sort of reality. But
exactly,
it's very true.
100%. I'm playing Diablo with an ETH founder later, which is just crazy to me. Like that's just it's a crazy world like this, you know, and I don't, you know, I didn't know him before. We don't live anywhere near each other. It's all through apes. And, you know, I mean, I've met him numerous times in person. I've met you numerous times in person. This is a whole new thing that people just aren't really ready for. I don't think most people, even most of the people who are in this, don't really realize where the potential is and that where the value even comes from. I don't think most people realize where the value comes from. They think that we got lucky. And it's like, yeah, well, I mean, the only reason that the value really goes down is because people aren't talking about it. And people just, you know, right now they're just not. But when they start again, it'll go back up.
Yeah. The attention economy will bring it back.
100%.
Do you feel like a lot of your attention has kind of started to shift at all? Like perhaps for me, with Yuga focusing on a lot of these gaming experiences, you know, there's so much development in Legends of the Mara, the other side, heavy metal. How do you have you found yourself focusing on shared experiences and gaming together?
So I'm a gamer. I love games. I mean, you've got behind me, I've got Diablo, the first Diablo down there, and I've got SimCity. And before this enormous rug showed up, there were another 15 old school games back here. I just love to rotate through because I'm an OG gamer. This job has kind of taken up most of my time, so I don't get to really play too much anymore. As far as the Web3 games, I'll admit that Jen is our rock there. She's the one that's pretty much holding down the fort when it comes to the new experiences. And I'm keeping up with Legends of the Mara, of course, and as many of the other games as I can, including even Futureverse. Those guys are amazing. They're building all kinds of great stuff. But most of my focus lately when it comes to shared experiences is actually like on the community building. What I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get people on board with delegations. I think one of the biggest problems that we have, like for instance, in the DAO and probably just a lot of other ecosystems is that people don't feel like they have a voice, and they don't feel like, you know, their 15 or 30 or 50 ape coin or one ape coin makes a difference. And they absolutely make a difference. And I've seen it firsthand where the people who are making the biggest impact aren't the ones with that much ApeCoin. They're the ones who are just spending the most time engaged. And a lot of them don't feel like they're as important. So I think that where I'm trying to lend as much value as I can is community building and building delegations and trying to get people involved in trying to create more shared experiences through their communities for people that are like-minded. I'm not going to hang out in all of the different servers or all of the different groups. I vibe with a lot, but I have, like, you know, my group of people or a few groups of people that I feel like I vibe with more, and people that you grow to trust. And some of those people really enjoy watching C-SPAN. So we send them to go into the forum to go, you know, report back on their findings for different initiatives, different AIPs, and they bring that information back and they talk to their community about it. And then that community can make educated decisions based on the regurgitation version of the, you know, from this emissary. And if we can create like delegations, communities that are thinking like in a like-minded way, that also start thinking together, like, okay, how can we contribute together? How can we make decisions together? How do we make or how do we just grow? How do we get more people to show up and kind of like contribute with us? That's where I'm focused, because I think that once we do that, that's just one more of those flywheels where we get a lot of delegations that are made up of smaller token holders, but have a huge voice because they've come together and they've decided like, hey, we want to make an impact. We want to be listened to. So we came together collectively so that they have to listen. And then we have a combined voice. And it's in some ways it's kind of like a union, but in most ways it's just like a delegation. You're just coming together as a delegation of people to make decisions about something that they care about in a way that they all can agree on. And sometimes they don't agree, but generally I think you get these delegations together with people who will agree with each other, at least to some extent. Or maybe they'll leave and go jump on with another group that they feel like they vibe with more. So that's where most of my focus has been on this last several months, trying to branch out and make people realize like that ApeCoin and all of our ecosystem are just a bunch of small communities of like-minded people that come together, and figuring out ways to organize them and give them all purpose, I think is really important, because there are a lot of them that are just vibing out. Like, oh, we're just vibing out. And it's like, yeah, but you guys can do a lot more. Like, you vibe all day, but you have power. You can do something with that. Let's figure out ways for you guys to channel that energy. It's valuable.
Yeah. I mean,
I think,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I think Jason and I can relate, you know what I mean? We're not only vibing out, but as just building the community and just helping facilitate the conversations, keeping people engaged, coming up with experiences where we can create, learn, collaborate together. How can we actually make this sustainable? How can we take it to the next level? How can we actually come up with ways to engage with the community on different levels at a different scale even? A lot of this, there are ways we can just kind of have fun with each other, but to do even more meaningful events and things with each other, there needs to be some sort of way we can tap into this without having to just, go on a raise for, through some VC funding or anything like that. And so from a community standpoint, I think there are a lot of really interesting things that are going on that all of us could really start to open our eyes to tap into, because it does seem like there are some solutions.
Yeah.
Jason, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of touch on the importance of delegation, and recently on a previous episode of DECKSIDE, we had Captain Trippy on. So if you haven't seen that, please go check it out. But we spoke with him about the delegation kind of importance as well, and he left us with a challenge. Like, if you start an otherspace FM wallet to delegate, he'll put some coins in there to delegate and start that ball rolling. And I think my biggest takeaway from what you just explained is how a delegated wallet and being part of one can actually make someone who has a small amount of ApeCoin feel more valued, because now you're aligning with a bigger group and you may actually accomplish that purpose or get that vote across that you wanted, which individually by yourself you may have not thought was possible, right? So I am starting to see the value of the delegation myself, because I'm not a whale. I've got a small amount of ApeCoin. But if I find enough people like myself who trust Otherspace FM and we all vote the same way, and you activate some kind of voting mechanism through Discord where you can activate this measure and we vote as a team, now I feel more accomplished, right? And then to anyone else's point, if I don't align with what everyone else voted, hey, guess what? I can still change my vote because I have access to those tokens, right? So there is no real losing side to the delegation. If you don't have the time to be in it every second, it's actually quite an empowering move, I think.
Yeah.
Even if you do have all the time in the world to spend in it, just coming together to show your collective strength has this synergistic effect of like, you know, the whole is stronger than the sum of its parts, simply because all of these people coming together, like, you know, it's like a fist, you know, it's powerful. And I promise you, if people see that you have 400,000 ApeCoin, that, you know, even if you do like actually contribute and vote and you know, are engaged, just putting it together with everybody within your delegation, so that, you know, people who have AIPs coming up are going to go on your, they're gonna request to be on your show so they can get their message out. And the more that your delegation grows, the more people who are going to show up trying to ask, like, not only can they be a part of it, but how can we get in front of your delegation so that we can pitch our ideas? And then that flywheel starts taking hold. And then the next thing you know, well, you're selling some ad space to guerrilla marketing.
Great callback. No, I think this has been a fantastic episode, and I don't know if you guys are in the like mind of maybe it's time to start to wrap, because I don't want to take so much time. You know, you've given us a lot of your day and a lot of amazing thoughts today, and we're very appreciative of it. But I want to ask, before we do you have anything right now that you're working on that our audience should be looking forward to maybe give you some support with?
Yeah.
All right, sick.
Yeah, it very, very soon. I think yeah, I mean, I touched on it a little bit, but yeah, it's gonna be good, man. It's you're supposed to build in the bear, and that's what the fuck we're doing.
I love that.
Hell yeah. Gerry, another awesome conversation. It's nice to be able to speak with you on the deck side in the middle of the swamp. Appreciate you being here with us today.
Love you guys. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for the time, and happy to come back if you guys ever want to have me.